Attorney General should be calling us here in mere moments. Josh Hawley is in a very interesting... Oh, he's with us. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, he's the Attorney General of the great state of Missouri. Mr. Josh Hawley. Josh, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You betcha. So you just got finished with a campaign run around the state. Any interesting stories that you heard out there?
Oh, all kinds of interesting things, but I tell you, two things really stick with me, McGraw. One of them is that I was just talking with my wife and I with a younger couple down in southwest Missouri, and the husband's a school teacher there in town in Springfield area, and his wife was, I believe, a teacher herself, but she stays at home now with their little kids, and they were just telling me about the cost of health insurance and how unbelievably high it has gotten over the last few years, so much so that the wife may have to go back to work just to pay the bills for the health insurance. And they're a healthy family. I mean, it's not like they are facing serious health challenges as so many people do. So this is the kind of thing, the kind of challenge that middle-class folks are facing that Claire McCaskill is responsible for. I mean, the soaring costs of health care, the soaring costs of raising children, it's just totally unsustainable, and that's why we need real change in Washington, D.C., and why Claire McCaskill needs to go.
I think everyone, even though no one can agree that it's Tuesday, everybody can agree, Josh Hawley, that health care, not heavily subsidized by your employer, is astronomical. But the question is, how do you fix it? What do you do? Because we spend a lot of money on people's health care who don't pay into the system. So how do you solve the problem where some people get really free health care but poor health care, and people pay a lot of money for really bad health care? So how do you fix it?
Well, I tell you one thing that you can do is you end the total government control of our healthcare system as we're seeing now, and you end this collusion between big government and the big insurance companies. And this is what really strikes me as the standout feature of Claire McCaskill and Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton. Their approach to health care was, let's let big government and big insurance collude. So, the insurance companies do great. Of course, there's only like 5 of them left in the entire country anymore. They're basically all monopolies now because the government's given them control of the whole market. Those folks the insurance companies need to be competing with each other to give consumers better deal. To give patients a better deal. And then patients need to have control of their own health care. And I've talked to a lot of doctors as well. And doctors just tell me our hands are so tied increasingly by insurance companies and government, we can't respond to the needs of our patients. That has got to change. So let's end that alliance between the big insurance companies and big government. And by the way, Claire McCaskill, my opponent in this race, she takes a heck of a lot of money from those insurance companies and from big pharma and all the rest, and that's one of the reasons that she's favored this policy that's driving costs up through the roof. It's time to change.
I've had a number of friends of mine say, who were 61, 62, 63, say, all I have to do is survive to 65, and then Medicare and Medicaid kick in, and then I'll be fine. Why not Medicare for all? If people who are over 65, it's not perfect, but it's a lot better than if you're under 65 and you got to pay the full freight.
The problem with the plan that Claire McCaskill and other allies of hers are pushing is what that would amount to is even more government control, even more collusion between big insurance companies. I mean, people forget that Obamacare, or the press forgets actually, not normal people who are paying the cost. But, Obamacare was in many ways a big giveaway to big insurance. And that's basically what the Democrats are pushing now. I mean, let's further concentrate government control and insurance monopolies in this country. Well, with all due respect, we have tried that. We've tried that for over a decade now, and it's not working. And in fact, this monopolization of the insurance industry, that's been going on for longer than the last decade. So what we need to make those insurance companies compete to better serve American families and American consumers. And we need to put control away from far-off government bureaucrats back into the hands of families, back in the hands of moms and dads and their doctors. And that's the kind of reform we need that will give people more control over their health care, more choices, liberate doctors to practice good medicine, practice preventive medicine, get rewarded for that, Those are the kind of common sense reforms that we need out there, and not more collusion.
Josh Hawley with us for a couple minutes. Josh, you find yourself in a very interesting position. You are the Attorney General of a state in which the governor from your own party is in the midst of a scandal in which impeachment looms over the state, and yet you're also running for United States Senate. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and you answer accordingly. And if I ask a question you're not allowed to answer, please tell me thanks, McGraw, but don't ask that question, or you can't answer it. But let me start broadly. What is it that is, in your opinion, where you sit, the biggest issue facing the state of Missouri today?
Well, I think the biggest issue facing the state of Missouri is the threat to the Missouri middle class and to the middle class way of life, McGraw, that has sustained our state and sustained our country. And let me give you an example. The town that I grew up in, Lexington, Missouri, over in Lafayette County, it's in the west central part of the state. It's a little town of about 5,000 people when I was growing up. It's smaller than that now. Our experience in Lexington is indicative of what we're facing all across the state. We used to have a manufacturing base there that provided good jobs. We used to have more businesses in town. Now the manufacturing has dried up. It's gone overseas. It's gone to other places. Farming used to be a major support for that community, but of course we're in the middle of a crisis on the farm, and more kids can't come home to the farm anymore. So that town is hurting, and towns like that all across our state and our suburbs too. And what I really think is the greatest challenge of this era, McGraw, is the challenge to the middle-class way of life that has sustained this country. And the real question is, are we going to be able to save it? Are we going to be able to renew it for a new era? And the answer is not unless we make some changes in Washington, not unless we send people like Claire McCaskill home, not unless we break up the D.C. cartel, we break up this alliance of big government and the multinational corporations, big insurance, like we were talking about a minute ago. We need some fundamental change, and we need people who are going to go to Washington and speak up for our state and speak up for the middle-class way of life. And that, I think, is the single biggest thing facing not just the state, but the country as a whole.
We had the Chamber of Commerce on, just completed a study last week, and they said that the companies are saying that there aren't enough workers, and that the workers who do show up aren't skilled for the jobs that are out there for the 21st century. So while the one manufacturing job doesn't exist anymore, there are other manufacturing jobs in which you need computer skills and intelligence and different skills that you needed 30, 40 years ago. So how do you match the employees today with the jobs of the future?
Well, one way is we've got to get vocational training, skills training back into our high schools, back into our educational system, and we need to break up the monopoly. Speaking of monopolies, we need to break up the monopoly that these four-year college institutions that take federal tax money that they currently have on our education system, that they have on our tax dollars. You know, we spend billions of dollars, give billions of dollars to these four-year institutions that gobble up the money, this tax money that comes from you and me, the taxpayer. Then they raise tuition, and then they churn out what are increasingly worthless degrees, students not getting the skills they need. We need to break that up. We need to allow folks to take federal dollars, federal loans, student loan dollars into apprenticeship programs, into job training programs. You know, a lot of people, they don't want an expensive four-year degree. They want to get a skill, and then they want to go into the workforce, and they want to support a family, and there is nothing wrong with that. We need to enable and empower folks to follow that path. So we need more vocational training. We need more apprenticeships. We need to give people more flexibility, and we need to end this higher ed monopoly where everything has to look like an expensive four-year degree. That's one thing. The other thing we need to quit doing, McGraw, is we need to quit paying people not to work. You know, we've spent a lot of money paying people in this country not to work. That needs to end. There are so many folks who want a good job, who need a good-paying job. Let's get them the skills that they need to do that, so that they can have pathways into the middle class.
Josh Hawley with us for a couple of more minutes. Kansas City Star had a story over the weekend. Basically, the premise of the story was that Eric Greitens is doing everything he can to save his job, and if it hurts your chances for the U.S. Senate, so be it. In fact, some in the governor's camp have said you're using his controversy to boost your campaign while at the same time forces close to Claire McCaskill say you are supporting Eric Wrighton. So which is it? Are you the worst or the best? Fill me in.
You know, I kind of think if you're getting criticized by either end, either side, either extreme, you're probably doing something right. And look, here's my view, McGraw. I was elected in this state with more votes than anybody to be this state's prosecutor, to be the chief law enforcement officer. And that is a responsibility I take very seriously. And it's one that I pursue every single day. And I'm going to keep doing it. So I'm going to keep doing my job as the Attorney General of the state. Sometimes the work that we do in the Attorney General's office is applauded. Sometimes it's criticized. Sometimes it's not noticed at all. It doesn't matter. We have a job to do, and we're going to do it. And I'm proud of my record as Attorney General, whether it's taking on sex traffickers and sex predators or standing up to big pharma or standing up to big tech. And we're going to keep right on doing that, regardless of who cheers or criticizes or what have you.
Let me ask you about Cole County. Prosecutors said that there was no crime, nothing there when it came to the governor, in which you told him to look at. You still think that there's probable cause for him to be charged in Cole County, but that prosecutor says no. Can you send that to another jurisdiction, or is that now done because the Cole County prosecutor doesn't want to charge the governor?
Well, the Cole County prosecutor is the one with jurisdiction, and that just means that under Missouri law, he's the one that has he's the only one that has the authority to charge it. Now, sometimes prosecutors have conflicts, or they feel that they can't fairly and in an unbiased manner review a case and charge a case, and so there's always a possibility, as we've seen with other cases involving the governor, that a prosecutor gets reassigned or there's a different prosecutor appointed. But here's the bottom line on that, McGraw, is that I'm doing my job as Attorney General. I said that as I go about my work, as we go about our investigations, if we find evidence of criminal wrongdoing, whether that relates to the governor of the state or anybody else, we are going to refer it to the appropriate authorities. We will prosecute it if we have the power to do so. And we're not going to give special favors to anybody, nor are we going to live in fear of anybody. We're going to treat each person in Missouri the exact same way under the law, and we're going to keep right on doing it.
How close are you paying attention to these hearings in Jefferson City?
Well, I'm aware that they're going on. I read the news from time to time. To tell you the truth, I have a job to do as Attorney General, and I've got a job to do in beating Claire McCaskill, and I'm focused on those things. So that is getting the lion's share of my attention. Of course, my office is always ready and able to perform its duties as the state's chief law enforcement officer, and to do anything we may need to do in the course of these proceedings in the Capitol. But the work of our office goes forward. We have 42,000 ongoing cases, McGraw, that we are handling for the state of Missouri, and I'm proud of how our attorneys are handling those cases. We are sticking up every day for Missouri citizens in court, fighting against those who would threaten their safety, whether that's big pharma or big tech or anybody else, and we're going to keep right on doing it. Josh
Hawley, you're always welcome here. Safe travels, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Josh Hawley, ladies and gentlemen, you're the Attorney General, who is